did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
Back on this rap-ish, I ain't even broke a sweat, homie, this practice. Pondering my next move, staring at my track list, hope I ain't miss my window. Praying like a Baptist, Seattle's own. Tired of this Game of Thrones. They made a list of the best rappers, and guess who wasn't on? While the disrespect continues, I'm steady packing these venues. Guess if you ain't at the table, you on the menu, and I'm that spitter, baby. They don't want you to see, but everybody's out the Capitol Hills rocking with me. Boys smoke the trays and ponder getting their life together. I'm comfortable with my role, so I'm like, whatever. Me? I ain't got a job, but I work hard. And you don't work hard, but you got a job. The irony is I'm judged while you feel the applause. I'm slept on, that's why I had to set this alarm. My dudes is armed, I'm armed with this arm charm. Body banging like she got that cream from Barry Bonds. Yeah.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
That Dre season is here, a real hitter with a mic, I'm everything that they fear. With that hood ain't the same, I was all on their ass, I'm level-headed. So yo, my dudes love when I spaz, and I'm so over Seattle's passive-aggressive attitude. They don't call you back, what they really saying is F you. While I'm from the same place, I move at a different pace. I prefer if you just said it to my face, damn, I did it.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
Average dudes with they average spit, writing average rhymes, knocking average chicks. The closer I get, I can feel the people starting to shift. I'm loyal to a fault, and everybody can't come with. Rap's a rich man's game, I'm only playing with change. They bang models and singers, I'm knocking my own flame, I'm different. The crowd, I move with the chosen few. Black thoughts, I could be the front man for the roots. No diamonds and gold, I'm on my sticks and stones. If we can see your panty line, you should have on a thong. My team is strong, through this fire we forged a bond. And they already know what it is when I get on. To the hearse, party like it's December 31st. When I'm on my deathbed, I probably cracking my nurse. You ain't got the bars to compete. I'm a verbal athlete, deflating these boys so they say that I cheat. Damn, I did it.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
Yeah. I should probably start by apologizing for the long wait, man. You know, I know I be tripping. But I'm not just a rapper, I'm an artist. And, you know, my creative process is a little bit different than most. Nonetheless, I want to welcome everybody out to the Dre's Experience. I got TCF in the building. My whole camp's here with me. I got the band in here laying this cool-ass vibe. And I'm Seattle's own. Let's get into it.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome to the Morning Update Show. I am your co-host, Trey Holiday. It's been laughs on the set, so I just got to throw it to my co-host, Big O Man. I'm enjoying the sunshine. What up, Big O? Happy Tuesday, brother.
Happy Tuesday, Trey Holiday. I'm liking what you're doing here.
Thank you. Stripes on stripes.
Coordinate. Good morning. Want to welcome everybody to the Morning Update Show and remind you this is the perfect opportunity to tag and share the stream. Go ahead and tag and share the stream with people that you know or don't know that might benefit from culturally relevant news and information emanating from right here in the Emerald City. Show today, we got a few live guests. Willard Jimerson Jr. from Zero Youth Detention is going to pop in real quick. Got a new PSA out there we're going to talk about. And then Toshiko Hasegawa is going to join us near the bottom of the hour, running for Port Commission position 4.
There we go. I mean, we're getting them in here. Oh, we said we would. And now every time that we have somebody new, it's a great showing for the community so they can see who's really about these port commission seats.
Yeah, man, that port. That's what a lot of people have been sleeping on the port. You know, the port is a lot of influence, a lot of money, a lot of resource over there. So we'll get into that. So we're keeping the headlines a bit short today because we have some in-studio guests. I don't know if you've been following the George Floyd trial. Well, the Chauvin trial, but which says the George Floyd trial, man, it was a lot of gaslight yesterday. We got a short clip right here. This is Chauvin's defense attorney saying that everything was responsible for George Floyd's death except for that knee to the neck.
And this will ultimately be another significant battle in this trial. What was Mr. Floyd's actual cause of death? The evidence will show that Mr. Floyd died of a cardiac arrhythmia that occurred as a result of hypertension, his coronary disease, the ingestion of methamphetamine and fentanyl, and the adrenaline flowing through his body, all of which acted to further compromise an already compromised heart. Dr. Baker found none of what are referred to as the telltale signs of asphyxiation. There were no bruises to Mr. Floyd's neck, either on his skin or after peeling his skin back to the muscles beneath. There was no petechial hemorrhaging. There was no evidence that Mr. Floyd's airflow was restricted, and he did not determine to be a positional or mechanical asphyxia death. When you review the actual evidence, and when you hear the law and apply reason and common sense, there will only be one just verdict, and that is to find Mr. Chauvin not guilty.
Wow. Here we go. We know it's going to turn up. I didn't know it was going to turn up like this. Oh, I mean, honestly, I'm more than appalled. So I'm just trying to keep myself together at this point, because we all sat there and witnessed it. When you have somebody who's saying that they cannot breathe, when you have people being like, why are you doing it that way? It wasn't like his knee was lightly on George Floyd's neck. We saw that pressure. So, okay, he must have come out with these details here. This is outrageous. Oh.
Well, I think the prosecution saw this defense coming, and they said that they were gonna use this defense, and that's why it was important for them to get the third-degree murder as a charge in there as well. But yeah, I mean, like, imagine everything is responsible for George Floyd's death except for the knee to the neck, and for him being pinned down there. And so that's the defense. I mean, a defense has to mount a defense. If you plead not guilty, I mean, the expectations of defense. But man, that defense is greasy.
Yeah, it's real greasy. And this is also just another indicator of how greasy the actual system is. The fact that you can sit there and, as a defense attorney, turn up the heat on all of these other things other than what everyone in the country and around the world really witnessed. That is another issue. And I think that too, once again, the language gets real colorful when we talk about how these defenses are built and how these cases are made. Ultimately, I think so many of us, we understand that there was a real desperate need for that man to breathe. And this is why people don't believe in the system, because if you have somebody in the medical examiner's office that can sit there and have a different kind of ideology that they're maybe bringing into their work, and you see it play out in this way, Omari, it only helps to create more and more dissension and less trust between the public and these kinds of companies and organizations and bodies of that are governing this process.
Yeah, let's put it in terms that I think that people are familiar with around COVID, right? If someone has bad asthma and then they catch COVID and they died of COVID, they might have lived another 20 years with, you know what I'm saying, with asthma, but they caught COVID and they died as a comorbidity. You know what I'm saying? And so irregardless of what they're saying, his heart was this, it's X, Y, and Z, man, his death was caused by the knee to the neck.
Right.
And so it's crazy. But, you know, if you put it in a public health light, like we were saying, when you talk about, they're saying that he had comorbidities, right? But there's still actual cause of death. It's just like I said, with COVID, somebody who's got diabetes, hypertension, asthma. Well, man, it's the COVID that knocked you out because of these pre-existing conditions. So,
absolutely.
Moving along here, this is a clip from King 5. It looks like, you know, the rise in hate crimes here in King County. I would say it all the time that sometimes the numbers, the data kind of leads us to believe that although we say as a city and a county that we're one kind of people, the data is kind of saying that we're not. And it looks like the King County Sheriff is thinking about, or the King County Prosecutor's Office is thinking about formulating a hate crimes division through the Sheriff's Office. Here's from King 5.
So far this year, the King County Prosecuting Attorney's Office has filed 10 hate crime cases. One of those cases we told you about last Friday. A Seattle mom and her 2 kids were threatened by a man while stopped at a red light.
He stops his car, opens his door, and starts screaming, "F you, Asian B, F you."
A surge in hate crimes is rocking King County. In 2018, there were 30 cases filed. Last year, 59. Council Vice Chair Reagan Dunn is introducing legislation that would create a hate and bias crime unit within the King County Sheriff's Office.
It's really important, we think, to get a unit established that can really focus in on this area of hate crime investigation, and then also do the important work of outreaching to the communities.
Do you think a hate crime unit is enough to tackle this issue?
No, I don't think it's enough, but I think it's a start.
The unit will be made up of 4 King County Sheriff's deputies and 1 staff member. But before any of that happens, Dunn says he'll want to make sure the community backs the idea.
Hate crime isn't just necessarily a crime based on race. It can be a crime based on sexual orientation. It can be any form of hate, right, that exists. And so we need to bring broad stakeholders together and really focus on it.
County leaders will have to approve the legislation and then allocate the necessary funding before the unit can get to work.
We're starting the hard work. Perhaps we should have started earlier, but we're starting it now.
Britt Moore, King 5 News.
All right. So hate crimes on the rise in Martin Luther King County.
Oh my goodness. Let me just say this. You know, the first thing I'm thinking is something that we've been talking about here often. And we just talked about it a bit when it comes to, you know, just yesterday, when it comes to, you know, crack cocaine versus opioids. I'm going to say this now, and I mean this, that hate crimes have been in our community for generations. The fact that now there needs to be a hate crime unit, I'm happy that they're understanding that now, and that the numbers are making it seem like, look, we need to do something about this. But my thing is that they've needed to do something for many, many decades. And, you know, once again, here it is that, you know, the spotlighting of hate crimes goes kind of outside of the Black community a bit. And ultimately, like he said there, hate crimes can be about a lot of different things. We've experienced that in the Black community. Our gay, trans, our homosexual, they have experienced hate crimes. Our transgender Black women, okay, are some of the most affected population when it comes to hate crimes. So honestly, the numbers have really been there. They've been increasing. The fact that they have not had the spotlight is a whole nother thing, though.
Yeah, well, I think that also as well is the Seattle Police Department, the King County Prosecutor, and a lot of other organizations have encouraged more people to report, because the hate crimes have always been there. And also these crimes are easier to report. And also there's more support now. So, I mean, you know, I get hated all the time downtown Seattle. You know, somebody's calling me a nigga the other day over there. You know what I'm saying? Ran up on me, everything, man. I mean, it's wild, you know? I mean, from blatantly, it's just the other day. And I'm like, well, man, am I going to stop? Am I going to report this? Or am I going to move on? You know, I told you, even getting into my building, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't necessarily a hate crime. It was just, dude was real biased. I've been there for like 5 years. Do you live here? Who are you? Were you Uber Eats? I'm like, man, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, we talk about it all the time.
Yeah. I mean, this is what I'm saying is, man, the hate is real. We need to stay on top of that. Real important pop-up right here. I wanted to talk about for a second before we take a break and come back with Willard Jimerson. If you could put up this overlay, please. Oh, yeah. This was yesterday at Junkins, right over by Junkins. Officers are investigating a shooting in the 2200 block of South Norman Street. 2 victims have shown up at the hospital. Suspects are outstanding at this time. There was no further update from the SPD before we came on air here. But again, you know, this is what this silent epidemic that's here in Seattle and King County, and something we're going to touch more with Willard Jimerson Jr. Man, the shootings and these homicides and violent assaults that are occurring in the Emerald City and across King County, and it's not only impacting the victims, but it's impacting whole communities.
Yeah, it really is. And this is something that is unfortunate every time that we have to report on this. This is what makes doing this news show difficult for me and Omari, y'all, because ultimately we understand that when the details come out, maybe we know somebody who was affected, there's a family member, it's a stone's throw away when we see these things happen in our community. So already, just off the top, I'm sending love to the families of those who were victims of this shooting. I mean, we know that, it's those families that end up really dealing with the trauma and end up dealing with the loss if there is a loss. And so ultimately, before I know any more details, I got to make sure I make that point clear.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. There's just a level. It's almost like a ripple in a pond. There is the exact point of the victims and their immediate family. You get a community, a neighborhood. We used to live right there on MLK and Judkins. And it was certain parts of the year where I had to tell my son, like, man, you can't walk through, you can't walk home. We used to walk home from O'Day. It's like, man, you gotta take an Uber. So even though that's the indirect effects of community, you know what I'm saying, when there's gun violence in the community, there's the people who are directly affected all the way to the people who are indirectly affected, to where you don't feel safe, you know what I'm saying, walking in a neighborhood and things like that. And I think public safety is one of the things that the ZYD is working on. So we'll keep up with this. We'll follow up.
Absolutely.
So I got a handcrafted motion graphic here. I'm so proud of these things. Next up, Willard Jimerson Jr. from ZYD. Man, not yet, Willard. Relax a little bit. We're going to take a break. We'll take a break right now, man, and we're going to talk about gun violence disruption with Willard Jimerson Jr. You are watching the Morning Update Show.
I did it for the city. I did it for the love. I did it for the people. I did it for us.
Back on this rap ish, I ain't even broke a sweat, homie, this practice. Pondering my next move, staring at my track list, hope I ain't miss my window. Praying like a Baptist, Seattle's own. Tired of this Game of Thrones. They made a list of the best rappers, and guess who wasn't on? While the disrespect continues, I'm steady packing these venues.
Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media.
Welcome back to the Morning Update Show. My name is Omari Salisbury, and I'm joined now by someone I've been working with actually for a few years on this issue of gun violence disruption. He's been working on it much longer than I have, but our partnership goes back to 2019. Since we've been making videos and podcasts and everything. I want to welcome Willard Jimerson Jr. of King County Public Health Zero Youth Detention. How are you?
Thank you. We're doing the best we can underneath these circumstances.
Yeah, and it's crazy because we scheduled you to come in, and then we saw over here just last night a shooting over there in the Central District.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that a lot of these incidents are occurring and taking place, and primarily in Black and brown populations, and therefore the work that we're doing in the collaboration is really a capital alignment from those who are in terms of our go first strategy to address these issues of gun violence. It comes down to capital alignment from those who are doing, the work on the ground level to those who are in systemic positions to build out sustainable opportunities for other folks that are highly impacted. And so that's what it really comes down to. And that's the work we've been doing for quite some time. All
right. Speaking of the work you've been doing, we came together for the Community Safety Town Hall, which was really a pretty dynamic event. Lots of different people representing different areas of community at that event. And one of the things that came out of that was a discussion about work groups and how ZYD is looking for different work groups for people to sign up to be part of the process of gathering information, shaping what their idea of public safety is. Maybe you can explain a little bit more about the work groups. Then we've got an actual video here.
Yeah. That's what it comes down to. Once again, is capital alignment. How do we utilize the community-based alternative solutions that already live in the community, but they don't necessarily have the resources to raise those issues up structurally? And so one of the part of our work groups is looking at from the education aspects. This is a hot point for all people in society, for the most part, to be coming in contact with the education system. So we're looking for folks who can bring that particular expertise that touches the lives of young folks in our community just as well as their families. So that's one portion of some of our work groups.
All right, let's take a look at this video here, and then we'll discuss more on the other side.
Public Health, Seattle, King County, Zero Youth Detention, along with our partners from across the South King County region, are committed to reducing violence and creating the conditions needed for our neighborhoods to be safe and free of crime. Too often, the response to crime and violence has been a piecemeal approach with a program here and a program there. When family units collapse, schools fail to educate, the economy fails to produce jobs, and crime rises, we've looked to law enforcement and punitive measures to save us. Nothing could be more wrong or further from the truth. Law enforcement can't shoulder all the burden or take the rest of us off the hook. We are acknowledging the lived experiences of Black, Brown, and Indigenous communities. We are centering community as the experts who can effectively identify key issues related to systems, policies, and practices that impact children, families, and communities of color across this region. Those most impacted by the issues will help call out and identify the root causes, including structural and systemic factors. 150 residents will partner with King County to develop strategies, solutions, and an action plan that explicitly addresses system changes needed and eliminates barriers to access for Black, Brown, and Indigenous folks. These residents will also identify the criteria used to measure our collective success. Simply put, we need your help as we do the work needed to make King County the safest in this country. It will take specific commitments from all of us, community members, our young people, elders, and leaders from the sectors all across this region. Together, we will get this work done. Please click the link below and sign up for a work group. Or you can recommend a co-facilitator from community for each work group. We look forward to hearing your ideas, concerns, feedback, and solutions as we build a community where all our children can be happy, healthy, hopeful, safe, and thriving.
So zeroyouthdetention.com/work groups. And I see there in the video trying to get 150 residents from across King County to either be part of the discussion or nominate people to be a facilitator in this discussion of how to best allocate resources in public safety.
Yes, and really it's about, collaboration, providing a culturally responsive, services or alternatives or solutions, and making sure that every voice is heard and every voice is counted, and making sure that we create an environment where all kids can thrive.
Right. What's up next for you guys? Do you have anything on the calendar over there?
We're working on several different projects. We'll definitely release more information as we build things out. With our Go First strategy, we have a collaboration of 8 different organizations that are providing underground level resources and supports through a measure that we talked about before is IPR, which is intervention, prevention, and restoration, to those who are of the most highly impacted populations when it comes to gun violence and those who are on the fringes in close association to be impacted by gun violence. So there's going to be some rollouts, some measures, there's some supports, capacity building and training that's going to be taking place. And as we roll things out, we'll make sure that the public will be informed.
All right, good stuff. Can I get this camera right here? All right, so for our viewing audience, this is the perfect opportunity for you to actually not talk about it, but be about it. So Public Health King County, Zero Youth Detention, they're looking for 150 residents to be a part of this conversation. Like, man, go there, zeroyouthdetention.com/work group. So, it's easy to press like a happy face or a mad face or something in the comments. I'm challenging you, though, to let's be a part of the solution. Click the link, go to the website, check it out, forward it to a friend and everything else. We need to really take ownership and play our role in creating the public safety future that we want to see here. Willard Jimerson Jr., my brother, thank you so much for popping in today.
Thank you as well. All right. Appreciate it.
You got it going on. All right. I got another handcrafted motion graphic here. And it looks like she's already in the green room. That's right. Toshiko Hasegawa running for Port Commission. You can't just be leaving the set, man. That's why we go to commercial. So
he's riding. Put a saddle on me all day.
Oh man, I'm gonna have Joe. I'm clipping this out, man. I'm headed. I'm putting this with everybody in the hood. Why not to have Willard on the show? He leaving the middle of the set. My apologies. All right, we're going to take a short break right now. When we come back, we got Toshiko Hasegawa. You're watching the Morning Update Show.
I did it for the city. I did it for the love. I did it for the people. I did it for us.
Back on this rap-ish, I ain't even broke a sweat, homie, this practice. Pondering my next move, staring at my track list, hope I ain't miss my window. Praying like a Baptist, Seattle's own. Tired of this Game of Thrones. They made a list of the best rappers, and guess who wasn't on? While the disrespect continues, I'm steady packing these venues.
Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media.
Look at you.
I was trying to get these papers straight, y'all, and then he just messed them all up all over again. Okay.
Bad. Welcome back to the Morning Update Show. As you can tell, Soul kind of smiles over here. How you doing?
I'm good, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm happy to hear a little bit more.
We don't have the wide. People can see your shoes. Maybe a little. Look at that. Coordinate.
Got to be ready. Got to be ready.
All right. So, man, it's been an interesting year so far. So many people are running for office, and a lot of these positions are becoming more high profile. One of the positions, Port Commission, I think it was Hamdi Mohammed, really put it on the radar because, a lot of people run for Port Commission and people just don't pay attention. I'm sure some people even run unopposed and everything else, but Port Commission is it's on the radar. Somebody like me and you as well, travel a lot, internationally, import, export, some everything else. You know how important the port is, not only for people, but man, commerce, business, everything. This is big business at these ports. Yeah. And you saw the Suez Canal when the port got jammed up over there, 400 big ships over there waiting to pass through that canal and billions of losses. I say all that to say this, that we have Toshiko Hasegawa in the green. Can we get Toshiko out here? Hello.
Hey.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Sunshine. I'm doing well. How are you?
Welcome.
Oh man, we're doing good. Yeah, it's actually a good day here on the set. I wanted to, first of all, welcome you to the Morning Update Show. Can we get the wide so we can get a wave in? Or we got to officially get our wave in.
There we go.
Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So we kind of got a little standard format here for people who are running for office. And we kind of give them the floor initially to tell us why. So you can tell us why you're running for Port Commission position 4.
Well, I think my why starts with my who I am, right? My lived experience. And good morning. My name's Toshiko Hasegawa. It's like the I is silent altogether. Hold on, I'm getting a call right now. People should know better. It's like the I is silent, so it's Toshiko. And I'm a Beacon Hill girl, 4th generation Japanese American, born and raised in the South End. And I'm a new mom. I gave birth in the pandemic to my full baby girl. I have the honor and the privilege to be able to raise her in the same neighborhood where my grandparents raised my father. So I grew up just, hop, skip, and a jump from the airport, from the waterfront over here. I grew up buying fish from the docks, from the natives on the Duwamish, watching the resident orcas. And you can't help but wonder, is all this richness, is all this treasure going to be here for the next generation? I'm a daughter of the labor movement. Like, I understand as, somebody who's lived and grown up here, yes, maritime and aviation are important pieces of our economy, but they're also more than that. They're integral to I think our regional identity and our culture and our heritage. And so, I'm really, I'm also running in the context of economic devastation. I think that's important to be able to lift up right now. These are not the best of times. And from my perch on Beacon Hill, I've also seen how when crisis strikes, it's our communities who are left behind and are underserved. And we've seen this case in point in the wake of COVID-19. Our small minority-owned businesses have all but shuttered their doors. They're facing bankruptcy. We have families who are struggling because workers are out of the job, and families deserve a sense of stability right now. And so I'm running for the Port of Seattle just to make sure that as we rebuild, and we will rebuild, but that we're really embracing the opportunity to actually build it back to be better than it was before. And we can only do that by centering the voices of people. You can't have a healthy forest if you don't have healthy trees. And you center the experience of people by asking it all matters, what is this going to do for jobs, right? Really laying down a grassroots foundation upon which we can build. And I think that there's a lot of thought, like, what are we going to do to bail out maritime? What are we going to do to bail out aviation? And yes, industries are economic drivers. They create jobs. But it's more of an ecosystem where industry, if it's going to thrive, we need our businesses to thrive, to put workers back into the job so that the families can thrive and experience that stability. So, I'm really proud to be able to step up in a time where I think that all of us deserve a sense of urgency in the position. So often these positions go unquestioned and unchallenged. I think many times because our communities in particular in South Seattle and South King County tend to think that it's not relevant to us. But if it's not relevant to us, it's because it hasn't been made to seem relevant to us. But it's always going to be that cycle if it's never going to be us who are at the table. So when people ask why the port, I say, do you know that it has its own police department? Do you know that it has its own fire department? And that it manages a multi-billion-dollar budget? And it's got minority-owned businesses that are still knocking at the door, but still not having a hard time getting through. That it's got all these contract opportunities that our community still can't get a fair bite at the apple at. That it has an opportunity to levy taxes, property taxes that we know can have a big impact on our community members. So if that's the one power of the port, how's it going to do centering our community members who have never had a say at the table? So you mentioned Hamdi Mohammed, and it's important to know. Mm-hmm. It's important to know. In 100 years of the Seattle Port Commission, there has never been a woman of color to serve. Never. There have been 4 white women, I think 3 men of color, ever, and never a woman of color. So our sister Hamdi Mohammed, who's challenging Stephanie Bowman, and me, who's challenging incumbent Peter Steinbrück, because representation matters, and we know it, and it's time to walk the talk.
Right. Well, in our community, at least growing up in the Central District, yes, we know about that port, and we know all the resources that the port has, and we know that for decades and decades, Black businesses and Black labor has been locked out of that port. So, right. We're real familiar with it. Maybe you could talk about some of the qualifications that you bring into this position.
My qualifications? Well, there's lived experience, so there's that. I talked a little bit about why representation matters, but if you're talking about a resume, I am very proud to be the youngest director in the history of the Washington State Commission on Asian Pacific American Affairs, which effectively makes me the youngest woman of color ever to serve as a member of any governor's cabinet. I was appointed by Governor Jay Inslee back in 2018, and what we do is we advise the governor, the legislature, and all other state agencies on the issues impacting our community members. By our, I mean Asian and Pacific Islander people who come from over 40 different countries around the world, right? We speak over 100 different languages and over 1,000 dialects, and that is some beautiful, beautiful diversity. From a nationwide standpoint, Washington is like a microcosm of the diversity that makes this nation so complex and rich. King County is a microcosm of Washington State. And so what it tremendously excites me about that work is as we identify issues and access and visibility and representation, yes, there are tremendous challenges, but when we are able to come up with solutions to be able to address some of those challenges, we actually emerge as thought leaders for the region. And so that's what I'm saying, like, why don't we bring that to the port? It's so important. It's literally the point of entry to our country for people from around the world, right? And it's a very beautiful performative step to say, you know, we're a welcoming state, county, city, what have you, but what are you actually going to do to make sure that it's accessible and in service to the vast diversity of all our communities?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we talk so much. I'm so glad that, you know, really, I've never heard from anybody that is running for a seat at the port. So I just want to thank you for having the courage. Yeah, I mean, yeah, when do they really reach out to community and say, this is what I'm going to bring to the port? So I think already we're really seeing a new trend here that is amazing to have this amount of diversity, the women voices really leading the charge here to say, we're going to do something different. We're going to be innovative about our approaches to bringing more and more diversity to the port. How do we, and I mean this because you said it earlier, that oftentimes it's not seen as a part of our lived experience. Yeah. What are you going to do if you win this seat? What are you going to do to make sure that people on the ground in various communities that have not been engaged will begin to get engaged with port and what they do at the port activities?
Yeah. And, you know, I think that one of the most important pillars of my work in public service, specifically on behalf of government, to build a sense of legitimacy in government that's in service to our communities who have so often been on the receiving ends of violence and oppression, is creating systems, structures of accountability. Right. That's what we did when I was the countywide communications and outreach manager at the Office of Law Enforcement Oversight, which is supposed to be a watchdog over the King County Sheriff's Office. You can bring people to the table, but you need structural change, right? Where does the rubber meet the road? And so, you know, having me or Hamdi there is really just a first step. I think some like huge stakeholders in terms of South King County are those airport cities, Kent, SeaTac, Tukwila, Des Moines, right? Burien, and creating some sort of like a airport city council where they can regularly come in and draw in their community members to be able to advise some of these things, like, yes, air pollution and the microfine particles that are polluting South Park and White Center and right here on Beacon Hill, Georgetown, but also the noise pollution, right? Like when we were growing up and we're playing soccer down in Georgetown, we literally used to duck and look at those planes because they came so darn low over your heads. My dad used to told me stories about how back in the day, before they reformed their policy, the planes going overhead would literally just dump some of their emissions. You would have to duck because it would fall on your head. So it's like our communities literally get shit on. And so we need to be able to bring folks in and give them formal avenues to be able to provide input on the policies that are coming across our desk. And I think the other bit about that is giving them opportunity to contend for resources, right? Like if we're issuing grants, stability grants to support businesses that do business not just at the port but around the port, right? We're talking about minority-owned businesses at the waterfront and the Chinatown CID coming up into the Central District. As we're talking about mass transit, that's going to funnel people from the tourism industry up to these neighborhoods and get them foot traffic. We need to make sure that those are still going to be businesses that are owned and operated by POC. Okay, like that's how gentrification in the long run ends up hurting our community members, and make those accessible to folks so that they have accessibility to some of these stability grants to make sure that they continue to be there. So it's maintaining the cultural integrity of our region.
Right. I always think it'd be interesting. Some of my lived experience, I spent a majority of my career overseas on the continent of Africa and also in the Middle East, in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, and worked a lot with different ports. So, of course, Dar es Salaam has the biggest port in East Africa, and then right after that's the port in Mombasa, and then everything comes in and out of the port there in Dubai. It would be interesting when we hear a lot of people in government, a lot of people talk about the handout, but it seems to me like a hand up would be for people at the port who have expertise to actually work with small businesses in our community, because right now import export, in especially things from the African continent, is a big deal. Like, so instead of, like, it's great that we get jobs and access, that's perfect, but how can we build more entrepreneurs? How can someone from the port partner with some of our small businesses who are out here who are trying to import stuff the best way they can, to Alibaba, DHL or something, and put dynamic programs together and be like, hey guys, if you get 7 or 8 or 10 business owners, you can get a container that could come in from Lagos or from Accra or from Dar es Salaam with goods from over there. And now we're putting people in business and empowering entrepreneurs. Like, these are the things that I'd like to see come out of the port.
I'm trying to see Omari as the next port commissioner. No, but really, like, if you walk through SeaTac Airport, you see how many corporate conglomerates there. Like, some of them are internationally owned by this entity called Host, right? It's an Italian company. It's like, even our airport should be a showcase of the beauty of our businesses and the riches of what we have to offer right here at home. And that's like, it's like, showcase some more Black-owned businesses, showcase some more Asian and Latino-owned businesses, right? Like food options, and bits of our culture from around the region that can be representative of that. And that's just a cool low-hanging fruit thing that we could do, right? But the import export and the big picture thinking all the way down to the way that we're interacting with these things as consumers, going about our everyday lives, picking things off the shelf. It touches all of us in our day by day. It's the economy that keeps the lifeblood of not just King County, but the entire region flowing. And so absolutely, we need to have points of entry and access from the top all the way to the bottom. 1000%.
Yeah, I agree with this. And I think that an innovative approach is what we're really talking about here. And so my question is really about, a bit of what Omari was talking about here, because there is like this, there's a lack of understanding from so many people to know how to engage with the port, how to even try to do businesses. And I think about something you just said there that really struck me. It reminds me of when I go to every airport, right? Whatever airport it is, how they're beginning to look so much alike, so similar, so much of the same. Yeah. How do we actually infuse diversity in something that feels like an age-old system, something that really was probably created through, again, this like colonialist approach to, try to make sure that everything is a bit more cookie cutter? We do need that diversity. How do we break that monotony?
And I think that's exactly it. So some of it is creating contract opportunities for minority and women-owned businesses, airport concessionaires. If you think about the little things in the kiosks in the middle, we need access to those commercial opportunities for minority, women, airport concessionaires, right? Just creating access and avenues inward. But I think the other thing, touching on what Omar was talking about also, is from the industry standpoint, is like how we create avenues in for our community members to be able to be active participants in generating some of this wealth also in a way that comes back into our communities. And one thing that the port can definitely do is partner with folks in labor as we're trying to reach some of our sustainability goals, because nobody is debating that pollution is causing climate change. And we all know that it's the South King County and South Seattle neighborhoods that are really bearing the brunt of this impact early and often and intensely. But really bringing them into the opportunities as we transition some of our fleets by ship, right? Because we're also talking about fishing industry. We're talking about cruise. We're talking about cargoes floating on barges and big container ships coming in and out. how we convert some of this stuff at no cost to workers or their small businesses so that they can stay competitive in a global market, to go from like diesel and some of these fossil fuels into something more sustainable like electric energy, right? And we already subsidize the cost of that for our truck drivers. Let's do it for the folks who are on water. Like, for example, it was our fishermen who really sustained our economy throughout COVID-19. But how many women are fishermen? Right? How many people of color are fishermen? How do we make sure that we're spreading the opportunity, the wealth, and creating points of entry into the workforce as well for community members? That means apprenticeships that target South Seattle schools so that, okay, not everybody going directly into colleges for them. Some folks want to hit the ground running, get skilled, and be able to earn a buck to bring it back to their family, right? So creating access into job opportunities for skilled workforce, for good paying jobs for a fair day's work. And just continue to train them up as we continue to transition and bring folks along. So not only are we creating jobs, but we're also reaching some of our regional goals that improve the quality of life for our community members. And all that comes into play as this ecosystem, this economic ecosystem, our economy, which is really suffering right now. So that's when I say we have an opportunity to build it back better. Let's do that by centering the experience of the people who have been disproportionately impacted and create direct avenues in for them in the workforce, in contract opportunities, not just for workers, but for businesses as well. So that industries, as they thrive, are driving that wealth into our community members' pockets.
Right. And you know, for me, I was going to ask you, you kind of answered a bit of it right there, but I think that what we require is intentionality out of the port at this point, and port commissioners and how the port operates. I mean, working in developing countries around the world, you see the power of the port. A port will transform a whole country. If you have a port right there and goods can offload and goods can unload, and the first thing you got a port, then the next thing you know, someone's willing to invest in a railroad to take this cargo up there, through your country to the next country. People are investing in roads and everything else. There's so much business and commerce that comes out of the port.
Yes.
I would really want to see, in a sense of intentionality, from the Port of Seattle to really be able to break through some of these barriers so people can really benefit from. We need the port. Anywhere else in the world, the port builds entrepreneurship. The port builds business. So yes, the port builds jobs and people have jobs and 9-to-5s and everything else. But the biggest thing that the port does is create an opportunity for entrepreneurship and for business. I can tell you how many people over in Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, they put their money together and they get in business. They get a container, comes in from Dubai. They take those goods up country to Mwanza or to Arusha, and now they're selling somewhere. And that's in developed countries. But somehow here in the U.S., those same concepts of import and export has skipped our community because people haven't been intentional in trying to make those connections. And we fought long and hard in our community just to get on for the longshoremen, just to be able to get one kiosk. That we haven't even broken down the barriers of how a port is supposed to work. A port is supposed to be an economic driver, not just for the people who work there, but for the surrounding areas in Seattle and everything else. There's Black people in Spokane import stuff through the port in Seattle. I could go on and on about port talk. But man, can you reaffirm, if you're elected, your intentionality to be able to drive entrepreneurship and people can really benefit through this port?
Yes, and I think that that's the exciting potential of this moment, right? It's like I think that we need to put a demand on our potential, and the port already has something called a century agenda that's supposed to be able to set these goals in economic development and in sustainability, but it's uninspirational. We want action and we want it now. And we need results because the impact is felt right now. There's something to be said for remaining competitive on a global marketplace, and a lot for the port. As much as it drives to our region, we need to make sure that folks are not circumnavigating around us just because we don't offer places for electric fleets to be able to hook up, right? And so when we're talking about entrepreneurship specifically, what are the things that have put Seattle on the map? What are the things that have put King County on the map? Can we start with the internet, right? Can we start with Amazon, Starbucks? Like we are an innovative region. That's what we're known for, is good ideas. So let's invest in innovating our maritime industry, right? It's called something called Maritime Blue. So making sure that these incubators and these opportunities have the structure they need to be able to grow, so we can bring those things back in, and even just turning capital off of those good ideas and being able to transition our fleets comes back into our local economy. We don't need to buy ideas and packages from somewhere else. We have that genius and that skill set right here at home. Let's invest in incubators. Let's continue to make sure that the folks that were giving the grants to be able to grow some of those projects are representing the diversity of this county. And I want to know where those projects are at. Like, where's a larger engine that can sustain a bigger vessel for longer trips? You can't drop a line into the middle of the ocean if it needs to charge up. Like, let's talk about that. Do we need another cruise, or do we need something else that's going to for bigger vessels that can do fewer trips across the ocean to be able to reduce some of our carbon emissions and be able to still ramp up the amount of trade that we're doing globally, that folks make them want to come here and do business at the port. So we need big ideas, and it takes putting your money where your mouth is to make sure that we're centering those opportunities around our community members.
That's right. Well, in Seattle, I'll say this: we're one block from Yesler Street. Seattle popped off as a port. Henry Yesler used to slide those logs right down here, down Skid Row.
Exactly.
Right, 1 block behind us on the waterfront. And they'd send that number initially down to California. So
only a local would know that. Yep.
That's of course. Come on, man. Trey Holiday, anything before we get out of here?
Yeah, I just, I know that your current role right now, when we talk about how you're serving in the governor's cabinet, I just have to ask quickly because, Asian hate is on the rise. And I know that what you're doing currently, may be able to speak a little bit to that. So just wanted to ask, how you guys are dealing with that and how you're advising the governor in that regard.
There's a lot to be said, but in terms of final remarks, I will say that this is not new. Racism and misogyny are as old as America itself. This is just most recent trend and iteration. In terms of big picture trends, hate crimes have been on the rise for the last 5 years, specifically against Black folks and Jewish folks. All right. And we are stakeholders, and there's visibility and a sense of solidarity around that. But what our community members really need to sit with is that we are commonly oppressed by a force called patriarchy and white supremacy. And we need to think about, on individual levels and as groups and associations and as institutions, about the ways that we uphold systems of oppression, because only when we start seeing ourselves as contributors in some way to that are we willing to do the work that's necessary to tear down some of those barriers and some of those forces. And so, yes, we sit with so much grief, and yes, there's so much pain, but also how many community members were out there in Washington, D.C. At the pro-Trump rally, the person who stoked specifically anti-immigrant, anti-woman, and most recently anti-Chinese rhetoric intentionally, and are now calling for Stop Asian Hate. We need to sit with the ways in which we enjoy privilege and the ways in which we uphold systems of oppression, because we need to get free together. And I also think that there's something to be said about the intersection between misogyny and white supremacy as well, because they all correlate together. So until we're willing to have those intersectional and those interracial conversations, we're going to be chasing our own tails, and it's going to be a lot of pain. But part of what CAPA is committed to doing is facilitating that space where it can happen in an institutional context with our appointed commissioners, and creating open forums for community members to advise on that, and creating tools to be able to wrap around for victims and survivors, not just the support that they need, but also greater avenues to resonate justice, because the criminal legal system is not built to support victims, and it never has been. There's a philosophy behind that. But in the meanwhile, folks are vulnerable and they're in pain. So there's a lot of work to do. The last thing I'll say is that the Attorney General just released its hate crimes work group set of recommendations to the legislature. Hopefully they'll act upon them, and that's all available online. Just search it in your Google.
All right.
Wow.
So before we let you get out of, before we let you go, I think that's and we can have these conversations. We need to hang out and talk port.
I know.
I talk port stuff.
Toshiko is bringing it today.
I talk port stuff all day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell people how they can follow your campaign, and also this is a county-wide. This is anybody in King County can vote on this.
That's right. Exactly right. Thank you for lifting that up. This is a county-wide body. It says Port of Seattle, but it touches all of us. People will have the opportunity to vote. Please visit HasegawaForPort.com. There's more access to information there as well as ways to get involved. And I think that what I'm most excited about is continuing to have these public conversations where we can think tank stuff. Like if you're challenging some of the stuff that I'm talking about, or if you want to build upon it with good ideas, that's what it's all about, because how many people even know what the port does? So for me, it's a very healthy exercise for our community members and civic engagement. I'd be so honored to continue to engage with all of you. Again, HasegawaForPort.com. And we're on social too. Thank you so much to both of you for the space.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
no, we'll have you. We'll definitely have you back again. Thank you for taking the time with us, and have a wonderful day. And congratulations on that baby.
Thank you so much.
Toshiko.
Bye-bye.
Wow, man, she's bringing it. I'm just saying, when have we had this much engagement with anybody who's running for a port commission seat? I mean, I don't know. I've never seen it my whole lifetime.
You know, when I worked with Heineken over in East Africa, I was marketing for like four countries with Heineken. And so I know that port, man, because everything over there would come out of the Rotterdam port in Amsterdam, and we go down there, man, and the port was chaos, in and out. And then, there's the other ports down in South Africa. I spent a lot of time on those ports, and up in Mombasa as well. Hey, I want to talk to you real quick about mocha culture. So this is the joint, right? This is 7 o'clock on Friday. Big shout out to producer Nikki Barron, who, by the way, is on vacation. Nikki Barron finally got a vacation.
Finally, Nikki.
So Nikki's out and about for, I think, another week or two. But we're together with Shayna Shepherd, Eva Walker, Chris King, and basically what it is, we got a spot for this. Let's play this spot.
Tune in this Friday at 7 p.m. for Mocha Culture, a docuseries meets concert experience that knits the stories of our local arts community and the legendary voices of color that inspire them. This Friday is episode 1, Ray Charles, with performances by Eva Walker, Maya Marie, Chris King, and Jimmy James. Hosted by Shayna Shepherd and presented by Converge Media and the South Seattle Emerald. Tune in wherever you're watching the Morning Update.
Love it, man. I'm excited for that. Look at all that beautiful music. All those folks ready to jam out, man. Celebrating Ray Charles, man. I'm loving it.
Yeah, originally produced. And this is a Converge Media production along with our partners over at the South Seattle Emerald. And this is also the kind of stuff that when we talk about, can I get this one? This is also the kind of stuff we talk about, the people who donate, the people who subscribe, our $5 family, our $5 army, and others, by the way. I'm not neglecting you guys. I'm just saying. But these are the kind of things that you enable us to be able to work and produce, like Mocha Culture. People saw the Vanish in Seattle episodes. We got a lot of other stuff that's coming up, and that's why people are supporting. Of course, they support here for news and information and headlines, but our purpose is much bigger than just delivering headlines and analysis. Our purpose is to be able to create, I would say, well-crafted storytelling and to uplift our stories, our culture, our music, our heritage.
Absolutely. I mean, that's really where I think you and I we converge, because so much of what got me out there was literally telling stories. So I love seeing all of these amazing productions come out of the Converge family, man. Shout out to all of you guys that are working on these, like extra productions. There really are the heartbeat of why Converge was started. So I love that.
Yep. So that's this Friday at 7 o'clock. Anywhere that you're watching the morning show, you'll be able to check out Mocha Culture, and hosted by Shayna Shepherd, with performances by Eva Walker and performances by Chris King and the Gutter Balls and some of everything else. Any last words before we get out of here today?
I just got to send a special shout out. You never know who's watching. And, as you learn, as I learn more and more about like who's actually watching our show, thank you, all of you. And I'll be remiss to not say to all of you to see yourself as a part of the solution as we we just saw Toshiko saying, look, she's going to bring her lived experience and become a part of the solution as she's shown with her career. I think all of us really have that opportunity at our fingertips. Please use it. See yourself as part of the solution, y'all.
All right. I don't think I have anything to add on top of that. So I'll leave you with this. Please remember to go forward in your purpose and go forward in your humanity. Until tomorrow at 11 a.m. Peace.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising